I'm Myriam.
And I'm Elyse. Two friends bound by the love of books.
Taking on the world one chapter at a time. This is the Book Bound Besties podcast. Hey, Book Bound Besties! Welcome to episode 8 of season 3 of the Book Bound Besties podcast, where we dive deep into your favorite books, have unhinged chats, and Elyse theorizes about what's to come because she has not read the whole book yet. Today we're talking about From Blood and Ash, chapters 29 to 32. Whew, indeed. If you want more Book Bound Besties content, be sure to follow along on TikTok and Instagram, where we post clips from our episodes, silly videos, and our unhinged book reviews. Also, please, I love Sabrina Carpenter. Leave us a review wherever you like to listen, but particularly on Apple Podcasts. It really helps push us through the algorithm, bring in new besties. We're already seeing some growth in this season, which is super exciting, and we really just want to keep building on that momentum. And while I'm talking about social media, we usually repeat this at the end of the episode, but we love to hear from you listeners. And whether you have an unhinged theory, you just want to talk to somebody about the books that you're loving because you don't have someone in your personal group of friends, whether you just want to tell us where in the world you're listening to us from, it's just so much fun to get to connect with our Bookbound besties all over the interwebs. And actually, we recently got a message from Katie from Colorado, which is actually somewhere that I would love to visit. I've heard it's absolutely spectacular.
I didn't see this. Did I see this?
I don't think you did.
Okay, I'm excited.
So first, she congratulates me on being pregnant. Thank you very much, because the episode just released of me announcing that I'm pregnant. And we will come back to this, but we took some time off between that episode and today.
Yeah.
So I am much bigger. But anyway, Katie says, I'm so sorry, Elyse. I was trying to read along with you, but I got 3 weeks in and couldn't stop. I just started book 3 last night.
Oh my God. Damn, girl.
Yeah, so she had a question for me. She was planning on reading From Blood and Ash and then Flesh and Fire separately, but she wanted to ask me about how the two series interconnected and whether she would be lost if she did that or if she should read them intertwined. And so I figured it would be a really good idea to bring up this DM because it allows us to have the conversation on the pod. You can absolutely read Flesh and Fire or From Blood and Ash. You can read Flesh and Fire first and then From Blood and Ash. You can read From Blood and Ash and then Flesh and Fire, or you can read them intertwined. I personally read them intertwined and I loved that experience. I loved flipping from one couple to the other. And like I told Katie, what happens is you fall in love with one couple and then you're kind of sad to let them go by going to the other one in the new series. But then by the time you're finished the new series, the book in the new series, you're sad to let them go and go back to the other. You know, it's just a fun kind of back and forth. And to be honest, in terms of the understanding of the story, I don't think it will impact it unless you're coming more towards the end. So the last Flesh and Fire book just came out. And from now on, the series are fully going to be merged. I mean, the characters from both series are going to be fully merged. So I guess as long as you read all of them by this point in the series, I think you'll be fine. But if you haven't read Flesh and Fire and then the next From Blood and Ash comes out, you might be confused. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So up until book, what is that?
This is, the most recent book is Born of Blood and Ash. It's the last Flesh and Fire book.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very cool. I can't believe she blew through the book so quickly.
I am not surprised.
I'm so impressed.
I really had to pace myself to drag out the series as long as I could. And I think I dragged it out like 5 months.
Yeah.
Well, these 2 series.
Yeah.
And it was very hard. There was a period of time where I was reading them back to back. And then I'd be like, okay, no, I need to take a break. I can't let this be over too quickly.
Yeah. I mean, things are certainly heating up.
I know. This is your content warning. This episode absolutely does contain topics that are not suitable for little ears.
Yep.
In all sense of the word.
Yep.
So back to what I hinted at earlier. We took a little break.
Yeah.
Please, do you want to talk about our little adventure?
So we were normally recording 3 weeks ahead of the release. So now, if you're listening right now, we're only 2 weeks ahead of the release. So our timeline, we felt the 3 week gap was just a bit long in terms of talking about current topics and what's going on in our lives or whatever. So now we're only going to be 2 weeks separate from you guys. But so we went to Boston for a wedding.
Yeah.
For Riddick's wedding.
Yeah, it was so much fun. We did try to get a photo with him.
Yeah.
But obviously the groom is in high demand.
Yes.
We didn't want to put too much of a damper on his night by trying to track him down. I mean, we did track him down by holding him down to take said photo.
Exactly. So we had posted in our stories, or no, it's on our grid. You could see a video of his first dance.
Yeah. And their entrance.
To
the reception.
Yeah.
We have some cute pictures of you and I.
Yeah, it was a really fun time.
Yeah.
It was cool to like...
It was the soft launch of the bump.
Yeah, that too. It lined up perfectly, actually.
I know.
Because I had a panic. I was like, oh no, people are going to see she's pregnant in the photo, but it lined up perfectly in terms of the announcement. So.
And I mean, it just looked like I got a bit chubby. So if I wasn't pregnant, I think it would have been fine. But my sister sent me right away. She goes, you look so cute and pregnant.
Yeah. And it was fun. Like all our friends stayed at the same hotel and we got to hang out at the hotel and
you guys got in on Friday. We got in on Saturday. There were welcome drinks Saturday night, and then the wedding was Sunday because it was Labor Day weekend. So we got to go out for dinner. We were a big group going out for dinner Saturday before the welcome drinks, and then obviously we got to catch up with everybody at the welcome drinks.
Yeah.
One of our loyal listeners, Nicole, we love you so much.
Oh, that was amazing.
She was a riot.
She was. We were just talking about the books and talking about everything that we do here on BBB and how much we love these books and how much we love the characters in these books. And it was really fun and nerdy.
Absolutely. But what's actually super funny about this conversation is that when Nicole was embarking on her romantic-y journey, she goes, listen, Mimi, spice is not really my thing. But, like, I'm sure I could get there. So what do you recommend for me to read? And I said, listen, if spice is not your thing and you want to work your way there, that's totally fine. Read Throne of Glass first, then read ACOTAR, then read Crescent City, and then, read everything else. I mean, she read Fourth Wing, and Fourth Wing is way spicier than...
ACOTAR?
I would say it's way spicier than ACOTAR. Maybe not Mist and Fury onwards, but...
Yeah, no, I think it's
spicier than Mist and
until
Fury.
You get to Silver Flames. I think Silver Flames is its own, like, beast.
Category, yeah. So when we were in Boston, she was midway through Silver Flames.
Yeah.
And her reaction to the spice level in Silver Flames.
Anyway, she's come around, we'll say.
Yeah.
Well, she's come around.
To put it mildly.
Yeah. But honestly, I mean, it's something I talked about at the beginning, too. I was just like, yeah, I don't know, spice, whatever. And, like...
And now Elyse is gung-ho.
I have realized, though, like, a huge part of it is, like, I just need to be introduced to the story. Like, I need to get into the characters and the relationship. Like, don't just throw me into a spice scene. And, like...
Be invested in the couple.
The spice scene this week...
But you're invested. We're 30 chapters in.
I'm saying that was a hell of a spice scene.
It was a hell of a spice scene, and it was... kind of PG, if you think about it.
Well, it almost made it hotter. I don't know.
I know.
We'll get into it. But
you know why? It was like the forbiddenness.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's like, you know what it makes me think of? Have you ever heard of a danger wank?
A danger wank?
Yeah.
No, but I'm assuming it's when someone masturbates at an inappropriate time.
Yeah, so I listened to this like British podcast and it's like two dudes, okay? So they're like, oh, have you ever done a danger wank? And they were saying the story of this friend of theirs who would start jerking off and then call his mom from downstairs and try to finish before she made... Is that wild?
I mean, whatever it takes, dude. Whatever it takes. I'm not gonna...
I'm like, boys are so weird. I hope I have a daughter.
What if his mom did walk in?
I don't know. It's so bizarre.
That sucks for her, dude.
It's just so weird. I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
I mean,
but like this was kind of a danger wank situation this week, wasn't it?
It was a danger wank. Oh, man. I wish I knew the term before. I could have worked it into the notes.
So this week we actually have some world building. It's been a while. It's been like many chapters.
Yeah.
Many episodes.
Which is fine. I mean, we were in the same place for a long while, and now we're actually moving across the continent.
Yeah. So the first new location that we were exposed to are the Barren Plains. And these are on the way from Macedonia to Carcedonia. There were once farms and inns where people could rest, but now, as the name suggests, the land is barren. Craven are to blame for this, attacking anyone who passes through. So obviously, if you know that this is an area that is highly populated by Craven, you will not want to pass through it, or you will pass through it at extreme caution.
Yeah.
So that is one of the new geographic locations. Then we found out about a new creature that actually gives me the heebie-jeebies, and I put limited descriptions because I didn't want to think about it too hard because it's so disgusting. And these are Barrats. And these are boar-sized rodents who can run as fast as hunting dogs. They're the only thing that craven don't eat. So you have to think of how disgusting these things are. If a
For the craven won't eat it, yeah.
In the past, so back when the barren plains were not barren and they were filled with life and agriculture and people, Barrats used to just be pests. But now that there is literally no life to sustain them in the area, they will literally eat anything and anyone.
Yep.
And we're going to leave it at that.
I just wanted to add, there actually is a creature in Princess Bride that is this.
And you want me to watch that movie?
I'll show you a picture after. It's
No, thank
a
you.
person in a costume. It's the 80s. It's like not that scary. It's really not that scary.
Okay.
But basically they're called ROUSs. They're the rodents of unusual size. And
ROUSs.
Rodents of unusual size.
Got it.
It's a comedy. You have to remember. It's like not that scary.
I got it. It took me a second.
But and it's everything's done with practical effects, so it's literally people in these costumes, so they're like scurrying on the ground. A huge part of this adventure, they end up in the fire swamp, and they're like, oh yeah, it's just a myth, and then of course they end up being attacked by these things. It's a great scene.
Anyway. Well, in other news, Justin and I may be moving to the country, to where he's from, which is not the city, and I'm very much a city girl. And everyone's like, oh yeah, we have mice here, we have this, we have that, and I am not ready. That is a part of life I am not ready for, because
Justin could take care of that for you.
He will have no choice. I will scream bloody murder.
Anyway, so
you've seen how I am with a spider. Can you imagine?
I know. At least the mice are normal size over there, so you don't have to worry about giant mice. So the last place they visit is New Haven, and it is a town surrounded by a small rise in the forest. There's also forest within the rise, and all we know about it is that it was a small trading town. So it seems in decent condition compared to what Poppy is used to. And that's it.
All right.
That's all we know so far.
So let's jump right into the episode.
So chapter 29. Riding closely together, Poppy and Hawke set off for the capital. They see many an abandoned building before ending up in the Blood Forest. They'll have to keep their guards up because that is where they'll camp for the night.
The scenes that are coming up in this episode have some of my favorite tropes. Female main character can't ride a horse, so the male main character has to ride with her and takes the opportunity to hold her super close. Yes, please. Cuddling for body warmth. I am feral. That is a trope that gets me every single time.
I know.
We had it in Till Death.
I know.
We had it in Court of Mist and Fury.
Yep.
We have it here in From Blood and Ash. I can keep going, but I will not.
I remember, actually, I was thinking about it because it like flew back to me as I was reading that chapter. Did you ever see A Day After Tomorrow?
Like the End of the World movie? Yes.
There is a scene where they like strip down to keep for body warmth, and I'm pretty sure that scene affected me. It's stuck with me. Anyway.
It's funny.
Yeah.
So as the chapter opens, Hawke is checking in on Poppy, knowing that she's not used to riding, let alone for this long. And he's making sure she's eaten enough and, just overall checking on her well-being. And she's startled when, soon after this interaction, she notices that the horses have started to slow down. The reason? These freaking Barrats. Hawke is intrigued by Poppy's lack of fear when it comes to dissenters or craven, but utter horror when it comes to these creatures. And I just want to say, as a person with a fear of spiders, I understand. Like, my grandmother would always tell me, I'll translate the expression, but it's basically like little beasts don't eat big beasts.
Okay.
Meaning the spider will not hurt
you.
I will hurt the spider more than the spider will hurt me.
What is it in Arabic?
No, it's in French.
It's in French.
It's like les petites bibites ne mangent pas les grosses, something like that, you know? Anyway. So all this to say, I totally understand her fear. Just the fact, that they creepy crawl, that's what freaks her out more than anything, and the fact that they're just enormous, disgusting looking rodents. So to distract her, he pulls out Miss Willa Collins' diary and asks her to read it to him.
Yep.
LOL, LOL, LOL. He asks her how far she got in finishing this diary, and she reveals that she's almost done. This totally lightens the mood, and Poppy relaxes into Hawke's embrace on the horse. Unfortunately, their lightheartedness doesn't last as they finally reach the Blood Forest. Despite Hawke warning her not to, Poppy looks down to the ground and notices that no, it is not just branches that are snapping under the horse's tread, but bones. And not all of them are animal bones, which is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Temperatures drop more and more as they reach deeper into the blood forest, and the horses are feeling very nervy. That's when Hawke decides to announce that they are going to need to stop soon, as said horses need to rest, and the chapter ends with Poppy realizing they're going to spend the night in the blood forest where Craven roamed.
Scary.
Very scary.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. We're setting ourselves up for the rest of this week's chapters.
What chapters?
What chapters indeed.
Dimple count.
1.
Oh, I missed it.
Oh.
Great. 1. And question count?
14.
14.
Yeah! It's such a win for me when we
get the questions, especially.
Yeah.
What is your most romantic award?
I don't have a most romantic line, but it's just Hawke's general care for Poppy in this chapter, making sure she ate, distracting her with the diary, making sure she doesn't look at the bones. It's just you could feel the care.
Yeah, I agree. I had just, I wanted to talk about just the diary itself, just those moments in which you could see your partner is stressed out or uncomfortable, whatever, and like knowing them enough to know how to like lighten the mood and make them laugh and stuff. I think that's really lovely.
Absolutely. What is your funniest line?
I can't imagine rats that weigh nearly 200 pounds being only a nuisance.
Mine also has to do with them. Hawke goes, you know what I would love right now? And Poppy answers, for there to be no talk of giant people eating rats.
Indeed. Do you have a spiciest?
Yeah. Hawke shifted, and somehow half his arm ended up slipping between the folds of my cloak. My mouth dried as the horses slowed. Hawke's palm was against my hip, and although the wool sweater and my pants separated our skin, the weight of his hand was like a brand.
Oh, that's great. That is great. Mine is not that great.
Oh, what is yours?
With each passing hour, I ended up closer to Hawke until my back was pressed to his chest and my hips were cradled by his thighs.
Listen.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Chapter 30. This chapter starts off cold and ends steamy. As Poppy is having a hard time falling asleep, Hawke gives her a hand to ensure pure bliss.
The number of puns in those 3 sentences, you killed it.
Thanks. Short and sweet, but I felt I hit the note, you know?
Yeah, you really did.
So Poppy's lying on a bedroll and she's supposed to be asleep, but instead she's shivering, trying not to freeze to death. And they have 4 guards on watch while the others seem to have no problem sleeping. Hawke then comes over to see her and realizes she's frozen. And we move towards the trope that we both love oh so much of we have to cuddle and use our body heat to keep warm. I will never get tired of that.
I will never get tired of that. It's so transparent, but I don't care.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So Hawke gets more blankets and then slips under the covers with her. And Poppy tries to protest, but Hawke insists that there aren't many options here. Hawke then tells her that Victor had warned him about her nightmares, and that way he'll be close in case she does have a nightmare, and she screams. Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So Poppy is trying to sleep, but all she could do is focus on Hawke's body against hers, and who could blame her? And then Poppy says this is wildly inappropriate, but Hawke just lists off all the inappropriate things that she's been up to lately. She says to him, I hate you, to which he responds, quote, see, that's the problem. You don't hate me. And even calls her out on liking him.
If this were happening in real life, I would want to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
But I love reading about it. That smugness, that male arrogance of, no, let's not beat around the bush.
Yeah.
I know you like me.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good. The tension, the banter, it's all perfectly packaged. Well done, JLA. Well done. So Poppy is trying to ignore all the stuff that happened between them because at the end of the day, it shouldn't have happened. Not when she's the maiden. And Hawke then asks her how she really feels about it all. And Poppy answers honestly. She doesn't want to be the maiden or be given to the gods or be married off to some lord. And she's worried that whoever she'll marry won't accept her and her scars.
Which again is just another time that he actually dives into who she is, what her thoughts are, what her feelings are, in a way that nobody else has ever done.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever asked her, how do you actually feel about this?
Well, yeah, I mean, even the fact, how does it feel to wear the veil? Nobody had asked her a few weeks ago, right? So he's not just a pretty face, our Hawke Flynn.
He is not. Even more importantly, Poppy thinks that people should marry for love, which is really sweet And then Hawke asks her if that was why she went to the Red Pearl in the first place, to find love. But Poppy realizes, no, she went there to find life and to actually live for herself for once. And like this whole heart to heart is just so nice because he opened a door for her to finally be honest. And it's like probably one of the first times where she's saying all this honestly out loud, which is so integral to like their relationship too.
For sure. And I think that also maybe or maybe not, her foray into Miss Willa Collins' diary has clarified a few things for her. Because if you remember when she first got the diary, she associated sex with love. And now he's like, oh, well, did you go to the Red Pearl to find love? And she's like, now she can say, no, I wasn't there to find love. I was there to find life.
Yeah. I don't know how well or how much she really knew at the Red Pearl in terms of like sex anyway. Because remember, she was so taken back by the strippers and stuff.
I think it was just because of how open they were, not their existence.
Okay.
Because she hears, I mean, she reads her romance novels, so she knows
Oh, that's true. She
about
goes
that
down
stuff,
in there.
you know?
Yeah. That's fair.
I mean, I'm assuming her romance novels are something like our romance novels.
Yeah. I would assume. Anytime a female main character is reading romance novels, I'm assuming there's spice in it.
Yeah. Actually, there was a Tessa Bailey book that I recently read where one of the male main characters was reading romance novels.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, good for you.
Yeah.
That is Tessa Bailey manifesting that more men read romance novels. Because like I said, they're a handbook. And he even said it himself, this character. Anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, isn't there, this is a, not really ACOTAR spoiler, but it's about ACOTAR. Doesn't the fandom like have this idea that Az reads all the books, the romance books? Like there's like a thing, like a theory going on
I haven't seen
online that like in the House of Wind, because Azriel is there with Nesta, that he's reading all the books too.
That's so funny.
And like people joke like, oh, it's really him leaving the books behind at the house. And
That's
like,
funny. I had never heard that.
I've just seen a few memes about it. And
Listen, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised, but we know nothing about him. So.
All we know is that he's a freak. And I was listening to, I believe it was Flights of Fantasy, and they were saying how the thing that makes them so confident that Az is going to be like a really fun character to read for spice is that, oh, I can't tell you this. Never mind. Nope. I just almost gave you like the biggest spoiler. We have to leave this in because, wow, wow. I'm so happy I did not finish where that was going.
Wild. I have no idea where that would even that would even touch upon.
No. Okay, I'm gonna shut my mouth right now. Keep going.
Okay. So Poppy is about to admit out loud that she wished she was someone different, but quickly changes the subject, and they end up talking about Poppy meeting the gods. And I really like this moment because even Hawke admits that he would be scared to meet the gods, and seeing Poppy in all her vulnerability, and he takes like the opportunity to give back and tell her something vulnerable too. So obviously in her ascension, she's going to meet the gods, and Hawke says like, I would be scared to do so. And a lot of it has to do with all the secrecy around the ascension. And to be honest, like that's what freaks me out about their society too. Like at this point, so late in the book, we still know nothing about their society. Well, we know more, but there's still so many secrets that this group of people have.
Yeah, if you pay attention to his wording, his fear is not the act of the ascension, it's the secrecy around the act of the ascension. That's what scares him.
Yeah.
Which I think is an important distinction. It insinuates that he knows about the act of the ascension and the intricacies of that. So it's him saying the act of the ascension is one thing, but what scares me is that no one in society
knows about it. Insinuating he knows about it.
Yeah.
And why would he know about it?
I can't tell you.
I figured. So at this point, Poppy's just like, look, I really need to we need to get to sleep. And Hawke remarks that she is so tense that there is no way she'll fall asleep, but he could help her relax.
And we are finally about to get some spice.
So he starts touching her and like rubbing her stomach in a slow circular motion, working his way down. And Poppy half-heartedly protests, but because she's worried the other guards will notice. Like basically they're in a not a sleeping bag, but a sleeping bag kind of situation. And there are other guards just a few feet away from them. Obviously, it's pitch black, but they could still hear things. So she's kind of freaking out, but also way into it to really stop it. And Hawke assures her no one's going to notice. So we kind of have her interior monologue. She's realizing that this might be her last chance to live before going off to the capital, before her ascension, before potentially being married off. And Hawke continues to touch her, all while telling her exactly what he would do if he could actually have her hands on her bare skin. And let me tell you.
Remember when you were like, oh, I'm not really into dirty talk?
Well, this chapter was great.
I love these little I told you so moments.
Yeah. But honestly, it was not cheesy. This chapter was not cheesy.
No, not at all.
And I think there is definitely a fine line between dirty talk being cheesy or being hot. And in this situation, it was very hot.
I agree.
It's not cheesy at all.
Did you notice how he called her honeydew? Or he referred to her taste as honeydew?
Taste as honeydew, yes.
This will recur.
Oh, really?
Yes. This is something a lot of people know about the series. They just know honeydew.
That's funny.
It's just a word.
That's funny.
Is in the fandom.
So he keeps going until she erupts in ecstasy, and he gives her her first orgasm. And I was just so happy for her at this point. As she's lying in her afterglow, Hawke ends the chapter with, quote, "I know you're not going to admit it, but you and I both will always know that I was right. That smug little bastard."
Dimple count.
None.
Question count.
15?
15!
Do you have a most romantic line?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're going to interpret it as romantic, but it's when he says, I want to be close enough to intervene in case you have a nightmare.
Okay, it's sweet.
Yeah.
It could be sweet.
Honestly, I had a hard time finding a romantic line because this was just all spice.
Yeah. Mine, again, it's like not really romantic, but just the fact that Victor shared the information about her nightmares to like lessen a situation, to save her embarrassment, to save her stress and stuff. I just thought it was kind.
Okay.
Maybe not romantic, but
I will
it's
grant
kind.
it. I will grant it. Do you have a funniest line?
Duke Tierman was a cunt, and I'm glad he's dead.
Okay.
It's funny.
Yeah. Mine is, did you just learn what an adverb is today? Because that's not what I said.
That part did make me laugh.
Little snarky snark.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Spiciest?
But we won't do that tonight. We can't. Because if I get any part of me in you, every part of me would be in you. And I want to hear every sound you make when that happens.
Spicy.
Yeah. I just like the promise behind it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, the whole thing of him, like, telling her what he would be doing if he could, it was just like, okay, sir. Mine was, let me show you just a little of what you missed by not coming back to the Red Pearl.
That was mine initially. Mm-hmm. That was mine initially. Because, you know what? Again, it was the promise.
The promise, yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 31. They hit the road again, continuing through the blood forest, this time finding Poppy's biggest fear, not only the Barrats, but the Craven.
So our chapter opens with Poppy waking from an abnormally good night's sleep to the sound of Kieran and Hawke discussing the rest of the journey. They've made good progress and should reach Three Rivers before nightfall, which always makes me giggle because we have a city here in Quebec called Trois-Rivières, Three Rivers. And Kieran is concerned about staying in Three Rivers, and Poppy assumes it's because of all the known dissenter activity there. Hawke is like, I know, we're going to break halfway to Three Rivers, and then we're going to make it to New Haven. Then Kieran asks if Hawke is ready for them to reach New Haven because he's noticed what's been going on between Poppy and Hawke. What do you think that means?
Well, he's aware that there's a connection there.
So do you think it's purely the connection, or do you think it's because he knows what happens the night before?
I kind of assume he knew what happened the night before, but like, what's he going to do? Walk over and be like, hey guys, don't do that. Like, you know?
Yeah, fair enough.
You?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Then he reminds Hawke what his task is. Hawke meanders over to Poppy and wakes her up. They banter a little bit about how well she slept, and he's so smug. Then it's very cute. He thanks her for the night before. And she's like, shouldn't I be thanking you? And she opens up her gift to him and feels a bunch of emotions like confusion, the sadness that's always there, and conflict. And then she gets ready, but not before noticing that Kieran was watching them the whole time and he looks concerned. The scene changes and Poppy is pondering what has changed between her and Hawke and how things have escalated. She reminds herself that they have no future and that even if she were to be found unworthy and therefore she would not ascend. It's not like Hawke would run away with her and she would be in exile. So she's like, basically, out of the two options for my future, neither one of them include Hawke. Mm-hmm. Poppy is lost in thought when she notices that Kieran's horse has reared, nearly throwing him off. What is it? A fucking Barrat. One of them attacks Noah's side as Philip strikes it. While they may be safe from this one, Hawke points out that when there's one, there are many. And him saying this is cut off by the sound of rustling as the horde that he referred to does actually make an appearance, but oddly, it doesn't attack. It runs past them.
Oh man, I was like full panic at that point. I'm like, this is bad news. This is bad news.
Indeed, because Poppy notices mist and the smell of death, and we know what that means. We are about to have a Craven attack.
I mean, terrifying, but how exciting.
Yeah, what proceeds is a fantastic fighting sequence. Poppy doesn't surprise her guards when she jumps into the action, her skill with a dagger and sword evident. At one point, she trips over a branch and finds herself fully under the mist, which triggers some panic and memories of that fateful night where she was orphaned. But her resilience is at play when she reminds herself that she wasn't a child any longer. She wasn't tiny and helpless. She knew how to fight and to protect herself. Mm-hmm. Once the attack is over, the mist is dissipating, and we unfortunately find out that one of the guards, the funny and sweet Eric, was severely wounded. And it's so sad because he's laying there in absolute agony, dying, and his main concern is whether Poppy is okay.
Yeah.
Poppy is immediately at his side, thanking him for saving her, and she realizes that while she can't save him, she could make his death more peaceful. So she takes away his pain, but acts surprised when he realizes that he's not feeling anything anymore. And then, in such a beautiful but sad ending, Eric tells her that he knows her. He was one of the guards she played cards with back in Chapter 1 at the Red Pearl. He recognized her eyes. They talk about how she was losing and that she was normally better at cards. And right before he dies, Eric calls out for his mom, and then he's gone. The chapter ends with Philip saying, quote, "It's true. The rumors. I heard it, but I didn't believe it. Gods, you have the touch."
Mm-hmm. Dimples?
One dimple.
I had none.
Really?
But I probably just missed it again.
No, there was definitely one. I searched it in the ebook.
Amazing. Question?
2.
Okay.
What is your most romantic line?
Never cave to panic. If you do, you die.
This is when she's remembering what Victor taught her. Love that.
Yeah.
Mine is, you trusted me last night, but more importantly, I know that what we shared is a risk, and it is an honor that you take that risk with me, Poppy. So thank you.
Sweet.
I love him.
I honestly found it a little cheesy that he thanked her for the night before, but it is sweet.
We've also established that I have a much higher tolerance to cheese than you.
It's true. True. But yeah, no, you're not wrong. It is sweet. I'm just being harsh.
It was earnest.
Yeah. Was it?
I think so.
I feel like there's like part of me that, not that like doesn't trust Hawke, but I'm like, I still don't fully get his angle. So saying that's earnest, I'm like, but was it earnest? Like, you know, like there's like a small part of me that's like, but what?
It's so funny because when we posted that reel, everyone was like, oh, and you find out his angle.
Yeah, I know. But I'm glad no one actually said it.
I know. Besties, we are so grateful for everyone who is respecting Elise's journey because it could be nasty.
Yeah.
It could ruin this whole endeavor.
I know. It could easily be ruined. Like,
yeah.
So I appreciate that people are letting me take my time with the book.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have a funniest?
I know how to use it, I told him. He gave me a boyish grin. For some reason, I'm not surprised.
Mine too, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. This is Poppy telling Eric and then Eric responding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was sweet.
And spiciest?
Never thought I'd find anything having to do with the Craven sexy. He swung around, lopping the head of the one nearest to him, but watching you fight them is incredibly arousing.
Agreed.
2 of 3 is still our
the
best.
One day, maybe.
I know.
Maybe. Season 5. Oh, man. All right. Chapter 32. They get to a keep for the night, and though Hawke denies ever really spending time there, the occupants seem to know him well. After cleaning up, Hawke stops by Poppy's room, and she has a realization of just how much Hawke might mean to her. Oh, man. So they continue their journey 3 guards short after the Craven attack, and Hawke definitely noticed something happened during Eric's death, but he kind of brushes it off, saying we'll talk about it later. And they reach New Haven. As they're walking through the city, a child spots them and quickly goes to get others. And then like more and more people are just coming out of their house to watch their party walk by. And
which, does that not remind you of in Throne of Glass? This is not a Throne of Glass spoiler because it happens at the beginning of the book.
Right.
But when Selena is brought to the glass castle and that procession that happens, this is kind of what reminded me of that.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But at least that was like planned.
Yes.
Right?
Well, was it?
Well, her arrival, like
her arrival was planned. Was the
procession?
Yeah, not the procession, but was the audience of said procession planned? I feel like
I don't
no.
know. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Oh darn, we're gonna have to reread Throne of Glass to find out.
No. So Poppy notes that they're acting as though they're in the presence of royalty, and then Poppy asks if they've ever been there before, asking Hawke and Kieran, and they both kind of just brush it off, saying they've only ever passed through. And as they approach the keep, it begins to snow, so we're clearly in a very different climate than where we began. The guard at the entrance greets Kieran with, quote, "It's good to see you," and a second man greets him with a hug. So it's clear he's buddies with these people. Hawke then states that they seek shelter, and Poppy just starts to look around the keep and notices there's no ascended amongst them, and there seems to be no lord and lady. Hawke then tells her he needs to catch up with some people and asks a woman named Magda to show Poppy to her room. So there seems to be some familiarity with these people compared to like what the boys said originally. So I'm sure we'll find out more details in the coming chapters. But for now, we are left as confused as Poppy. There's a bit of a chapter break, and then Poppy gets to her room, and it's the coziest sounding place. There's a warm fire. They bring her some nice rich stew and biscuits, and they run her a hot bath. Magda leaves Poppy a light blue robe, and Poppy gets emotional at the sight of it because it's not white. And it's just like...
the things we take for granted.
Oh my God, right?
I know.
It was such a moment.
Sorry, finish. No, say what you were going to say.
I was just going to say it was such a moment.
I know. Just back to... okay, in all of these fantasy books, they always have these like hearty stews with a nice like piece of bread. And it always sounds so appetizing to me, but I don't like stew.
Okay.
I do not like, like a bœuf bourguignon. Yeah. When the meat gets all stringy.
Yeah.
I do not enjoy that. I do not enjoy, like, my mom always makes this, like, chicken that's, like, de Provence or whatever, and it's, like, the chicken is stewed and it falls off the bone and it sounds super delicious and I don't like it.
That's fair. I could see why you wouldn't like it.
But this makes me want to like it. It's starting to get
maybe when
cool.
you're having it, you just have to pretend like you're in a castle and
with a big loaf of crusty bread. I have not made bread in a while. I should make bread soon, especially now that it's getting a bit chillier here. Yeah. Like apparently tomorrow it's supposed to be really warm, like 26.
Yeah, this weekend's supposed to be hot.
Yeah. We have another
wedding.
Yeah, we have another wedding this weekend, and they just sent out an email. They're like, "Oh, it's gonna be 24 degrees on Saturday." We're like, "Fantastic!
Yeah, it'll be nice."
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Back to the robe.
Back to the robe. Poppy then asks who the Lord is, and it turns out that the Lord Halverston went out hunting with the men, like just village men, and that's something else Poppy's kind of taken back by because it's not customary back home. It was very like royalty is separate from villagers, and things seem to be a lot more lax here. So she bathes and settles in, all the while wondering how Tawny is getting on without her, which like, well, I do hope we get to see her again. But anyway.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I'm not asking you to. I just sharing my hopes and dreams.
Besties, also, if you watch on YouTube, anytime Elyse says something that could hint at a potential spoiler if I didn't have the world's best poker face, she stares very, very aggressively at her computer. Like she refuses to make eye contact with me.
Yeah. Just because, and it's funny because obviously when I'm editing it, I'm watching us.
Yeah, but so also, have I ever?
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. In watching the playback, because clearly, like, I have to watch our faces to edit it, you never even crack. But for some reason, it just makes me feel better if I'm going to make a prediction to not look at your face.
Whatever makes you sleep at night.
And it's so funny because people ask us all the time, like, oh, will you ever do the reverse? Like, me having read it and you not? And first of all, I don't know if I've ever read if I'll ever read a book before you because you're so fast. But secondly, I do not have a good poker face.
Yeah, I don't think it would work.
I would like turn red as you're saying, like I would be like trying not to freak out and I would just be blushing as you'd be predicting things. So,
but the other thing is, I'm not somebody who enjoys predicting. Right. I like getting kind of lost in the story. So I feel like the enjoyment for our listeners would just not be on the same level.
Right. That's why our roles are perfect.
Yeah.
I like predicting.
We're good. Yeah, we're just going to have to stick with this. Stick with what works for us.
Yeah. So there's a knock at the door and Poppy's quick to grab her dagger, but it's Hawke. And Poppy was hoping Hawke would come by so they could talk. She brings up that the town is not like the others and she hasn't seen a single royal guard. And overall, it seems more laid back. But more importantly, Poppy wants to talk about her power now that Hawke has witnessed it in action. So she explains her gift to Hawke and talks about how physical pain feels warm and emotional pain is the worst because it feels like ice. And she explains the whole thing. And Hawke asks if she's ever felt his emotions before. And she takes the opportunity to answer honestly, which could be, like, it could have blew up in her face.
Yeah, but I like that she chose...
I agree.
The honest side of things.
I agree. Mm-hmm. She says she has, and that she's felt his sadness. And she's even taken his pain away before. And he was able to pinpoint exactly when she had done it. He thanks her for using her gift because he knows the risk it entails. And tells her, quote, "You deserve so much more than what awaits you."
Which, again, means he knows what awaits her.
Okay. That's fair. For some reason, I thought he was, like, referencing, like, her being married off and stuff.
I mean, maybe, but...
Interesting.
If you want to think what's in the more immediate future, he knows what awaits her in more ways than what you know. And besties who have read this whole book know exactly what I'm talking about.
How menacing. So Violet has this moment. Violet. I wrote Violet. I fully wrote Violet.
Nope.
For the rest of my notes. No, I wrote Poppy at the end. I wrote Violet for several lines.
That's so funny. I did fall into that at some point. I'd like start typing Violet and I'd be like, no, that is not who we are talking about today.
That's really funny. I just got so used to talking about Violet. Anyway, Poppy has this moment of realization too, that she is so much more than just a maiden. And then she's just kind of staring at Hawke, realizing how he's treated her this whole time. So he's always been different with her. He never tried to stop her from doing anything. He believed and respected her need to defend herself, and he accepts her for who she is. Like, if that can't make you fall in love with someone. Hawke catches her staring at him and tells her that she shouldn't look at him that way. Quote, like, "I don't deserve to be looked at, not by you." And then as he's getting up to leave, Poppy just stops him and asks him to stay.
Which is a cliffhanger.
We haven't had many, but that is a cliffhanger.
But you know what's funny? A couple weeks ago, the last line of our episode was, "Will you kiss me?" And now it's, "Will you stay the night?" Mm-hmm. Dimple count? None. Question count?
23.
I had 25.
Okay. What is your most romantic line?
"I hope you realize that no matter what anyone has ever told you, you are more worthy than anyone I've ever met."
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Same. It's so sweet.
Do you have a funniest?
No, I did not.
I struggled, but then I pictured the guys in our group of friends saying, when Kieran and Delano see each other, when they say, "It's been too long." Not long enough.
Yeah, it's true.
It's kind of like, you know what? You can tell that there's a genuine affection between them, but for some reason, some guys, listen, we have some guys in our group of friends who are very, very in touch with their emotions and who are very good about expressing them and, you know, validating and not validating and, you know, opening up that vulnerability, which I absolutely love. And I really hope more of them as they get older start to accept that. Not necessarily accept that, but like engage.
Show it. Yeah.
But I just think it's a classic boys.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're always going to razz each other.
Yeah.
So. Spiciest.
Will you stay with me tonight?
Oh yeah, well, it has potential for sure. Mine was more just like self-affirming, I guess. So I wasn't a bad person. Under the veil and behind my title and my gift, I was like anyone else, but I was never treated as such. As Hawke pointed out before, every privilege everyone else had was something I couldn't even want. And I was so damn tired of it.
We know, Poppy. We feel for you.
Yeah. And that's it.
That's it. Let's tally this week. We have 343 questions. And I think a while ago, I was like, oh, we're going to have like nearly 300 questions. That was dumb of me. We could have nearly 500 or
Maybe.
600.
Maybe.
At this point. Okay. Dimple count?
22. Not bad.
Not bad. It's nearly a dimple a chapter.
It is, actually. Yeah.
So, how
And-
many times is a characteristic brought up that often?
I know.
I feel like I said that last week or 2 weeks ago because I feel the need
Yeah.
to justify this being a count.
I think the only other thing, like, we could have counted in terms of body parts would be like Violet's hair and Fourth Wing or something.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
anytime her frailty was mentioned or something.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway.
Yeah. Maybe even in From Blood and Ash, it could have been Poppy's scars, which are not
Sure.
brought up that often, but they're still brought up pretty often.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
And there you have it.
And there you have it. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate this podcast and leave us a review. It'll help other people find us. If you haven't already, we encourage you to set new episodes to download so that you're sure to be up to date. And we thank you, besties, because we notice that more episodes are downloaded earlier in the day. So that just means you're listening to us, and we are so grateful. If you're interested in supporting our podcast, you can always check out our Amazon storefront or the discount code we have with Smoke Show Hot Sauce. You can follow us on Instagram at BookBoundPod and on TikTok at Book Bound Besties. Like we did with Katie, know that we appreciate and love hearing from you, and you may be shouted out on the pod if you send us a message. So we encourage you to do so. Also, tag us in any memes or theories that you see in both the Empyrean series and From Blood and Ash. And actually, we could do ACOTAR. We could do nearly all of Throne of Glass because you're making your way through that series. We haven't talked about our reading in a while. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email us at bookboundpod@gmail.com. Let's get to reading.